I'd always known Alex was straight, the kind of all-American golden boy who dated cheerleaders in high school and cracked jokes about no homo over cheap beers in our cramped Brooklyn apartment. We'd been roommates for 2 years, thrown together by Craigslist desperation after college, bonding over late-night video games and takeout tie that left us both bloated and laughing on the fire escape. He was the sun to my shadow. Blonde hair perpetually messy from pickup basketball, blue eyes that crinkled when he smiled, broad shoulders from hauling kegs at frat parties he still crashed. Me, Ryder Hayes, the quiet graphic designer with a sketchpad full of half-drawn faces that looked suspiciously like his, hiding crushes behind sarcasm and solo runs along the East River. I'd never said a word. Why ruin the one real friendship I had in this city that chewed people up and spat them out? But that weekend, everything shifted. It started innocently enough, or at least that's what I told myself as we loaded up his beat-up Ford pickup with coolers and sleeping bags. "Dude, you need this?" Alex had said, slapping my back hard enough to jolt me forward. "You've been moping around like a lost puppy since that ghosting app disaster. Mountains'll fix you." We were headed to the Adirondacks, upstate New York, a 4-hour drive from the concrete jungle into the wild heart of America. Pine-scented air, crackling campfires. The kind of escape that promised clarity but delivered chaos. I'd agreed because saying no to Alex felt like defying gravity. And yeah, maybe a part of me hoped the isolation would force a confession, or at least let me stare at him without the city's distractions. The drive was classic us. Windows down, blasting Springsteen until our throats ached from yelling lyrics, stopping at a roadside diner for greasy burgers and pie that tasted like freedom. Alex drove with one hand on the wheel, the other drumming the dash, his tank top riding up to show the V of his hips dusted with sun-bleached hair. I stole glances, pretending to check my phone, my heart a traitor pounding against my ribs. "You ever think about how small we are out here?" he asked suddenly, as the skyscrapers faded into rolling hills. "Like, all our bullshit back home. Jobs, exes, whatever, doesn't matter." I nodded, throat tight, because to me it all mattered too much. Especially him. We pitched the tent by a glassy lake as the sun dipped low, painting the water in strokes of orange and pink that could have been ripped from one of my sketches. Alex was a natural, hammering stakes with boyish focus, sweat beading on his neck. I fumbled with the poles, earning his teasing laugh. "City boy," he ribbed, but there was warmth in it, the kind that made my chest ache. We cracked open cans of Bud by the fire pit, flames leaping like they knew secrets we didn't. Stories flowed. His wild college nights in Ann Arbor, the girl who broke his heart senior year, leaving him with a tattoo of her initials he regretted. I shared bits of mine. Growing up in a sleepy Ohio town where being gay meant whispers and sideways glances, coming out to my mom over lukewarm coffee, her hug tighter than words. Alex listened, really listened, his firelit face soft in a way that blurred the lines I'd drawn so carefully. Night fell heavy, stars punching holes in the black sky. We roasted marshmallows until they charred black, laughing when mine caught fire and Alex swatted it out with his bare hand, cursing like a sailor. "You're a hazard, Hayes," he said, but his eyes lingered a beat too long on my mouth, sticky with sugar. Or maybe I imagined it. The beer loosened us, truth slipping out like smoke. He admitted the pressure from his dad, a retired cop in Detroit who wanted grandkids and a real man's job. Not Alex's gig slinging craft brews at a hipster bar. I confessed the loneliness of swiping right on apps that led nowhere, the ache of wanting something real in a city full of fakes. "You deserve that, Ree," he said quietly, poking the fire. "Someone who sees you." His knee brushed mine, accidental, electric. I pulled away, heart slamming. Exhaustion hit like a freight train. We crawled into the tent, the air thick with pine and our mingled scents. His clean sweat, my faint cologne. Sleeping bags zipped side by side, close enough to feel the heat radiating off him. I lay there, staring at the tent's mesh ceiling, listening to his breaths even out into sleep. Crickets chirped a lullaby, but my mind raced. What if I just turned over, bridged the gap? Stupid. Dangerous. He was straight. End of story. Then the storm rolled in. It started as a rumble, distant thunder growling like a warning. Wind whipped the trees, rain pattering tentative at first, then unleashing in sheets that turned the ground to mud. The tent shuddered, stakes groaning. I bolted upright, flashlight beams slicing the dark. Alex was already awake, face pale. "Shit, it's bad," he muttered, fumbling for his phone. No signal, of course. Lightning cracked, illuminating his wide eyes, and in that flash, fear stripped him bare. Not the cocky roommate I knew, but a guy who looked small, human. Water seeped under the edges, soaking our bags. "We gotta reinforce it," I said, voice steadier than I felt. We scrambled out into the deluge, cursing as we yanked tarps and bungee cords, mud caking our jeans. Hail pelted us like angry fists, and a branch snapped overhead, crashing close enough to spray us with debris. Alex slipped, going down hard on one knee, and I lunged, hauling him up by the arm. Our bodies collided, wet, frantic, and for a split second, he clung to me, face buried in my shoulder. "Don't let go," he gasped, not about the storm, or maybe it was. Back inside, drenched and shivering, we stripped to boxers without thinking, modesty lost to survival. The lantern cast golden shadows on his skin, water tracing paths down his chest, pooling in the hollows of his collarbones. He rubbed his arms, teeth chattering. "Cold as balls," he joked weakly, but his eyes met mine, holding. I grabbed an extra blanket, draping it over us both as we huddled in the center of the tent, knees touching, breaths sinking in the confined space. That's when it happened. The thunder peaked, a boom that shook the earth, and Alex jerked, his hand finding my thigh under the blanket, not pulling away, squeezing. "Ryder," he said, voice raw, like the word had been clawing out of him. I froze, pulse thundering louder than the sky. His face was inches away, rain-streaked hair plastered to his forehead, lips parted. "I've been lying to myself, to you, all this time." His fingers trembled, tracing up my leg, hesitant, seeking permission. I should have stopped it. Told him it was the adrenaline, the vulnerability. But God, I'd waited years for this fracture in his armor. Our mouths crashed together, desperate, tasting of rain and salt and unspoken years. His stubble scraped my chin, hands roaming with a hunger that belied his straight-laced facade. I pulled him closer, the blanket tangling around us, bodies aligning in the dim light like puzzle pieces forced to fit. It was messy, urgent. Fumbles and gasps, his uncertainty melting into need. "Is this okay?" he murmured against my neck, breath hot, and I nodded, whispering yes like a prayer. The storm raged on, mirroring the one inside us, as we crossed lines we couldn't uncross. Dawn crept in gray and unforgiving, the storm's fury spent, leaving a world scrubbed raw. I woke to the patter of residual drips on the tent, Alex's arm slung heavy across my waist, his breath warm on my shoulder. For a heartbeat, it was perfect, tangled limbs, the scent of earth and us, a fragile piece I'd never dared dream. Then he stirred, eyes fluttering open, and reality slammed home. His body tensed, arm withdrawing like I'd burned him. He sat up fast, blanket pooling at his hips, face draining of color as fragments of the night pieced together in his gaze. "Fuck," he breathed, scrubbing a hand over his face, stubble rasping. "Ryder, what the hell did we?" The words hung, accusation laced with panic. I propped on an elbow, heart plummeting, but I forced a calm I didn't feel. "Hey, it's okay. Last night was intense. The storm. We got carried away. Lies, soft ones to cushion the blow, because admitting it was everything I'd wanted would shatter him further." He wouldn't look at me, staring at the sodden sleeping bags instead, jaw clenched tight. I've never. Straight. The word echoed unspoken between us. Alex had always been the guy who high-fived after homophobic jokes, who dated Sarah from accounting with her perfect Instagram grid of brunches and beach days. This, it didn't compute. He yanked on jeans over damp skin, movements jerky, then bolted out of the tent without a word. I heard him retching by the lake, the sound twisting like a knife. Packing up was torture, silent, mechanical. He avoided my eyes, focusing on folding tarps with exaggerated care, while I zipped bags, throat burning. The drive back was worse. Radio blasting country twang to fill the void, his knuckles white on the wheel. I tried small talk. "That hail was brutal, huh?" But it bounced off him like rain on glass. By the time we hit the thruway, the silence was a third passenger, heavy and accusing. Back in Brooklyn, our apartment felt alien. The familiar clutter of pizza boxes and laundry mocking the chasm that had opened. Alex vanished into his room, door clicking shut like a verdict. I crashed on the couch, scrolling Grindr out of habit, but every profile blurred into his face. Sleep came fitful, haunted by echoes of his touch. Days blurred into a tense standoff. He'd nod in the kitchen, grabbing coffee before work, or mutter cool to my Netflix suggestions. But the easy banter was gone, replaced by this polite stranger act. I buried myself in deadlines. Mock-ups for a craft beer label that ironically featured flannel-clad dudes by a fire. While my sketches devolved into frantic lines, his profile etched in charcoal over and over. Friends noticed. My buddy Theo from design school texted, "You look like shit." Spill. I dodged, blaming the flu. Then the betrayal hit, swift and surgical. It was a Friday night, me nursing a whiskey neat at our local dive. The Rusty Nail, when Sarah walked in, blonde waves, red lips, the ex who'd ghosted him for a finance bro. She spotted him at the bar first, all smiles and fancy seeing you here. And Alex lit up like a match, pulling her into a hug that lingered. I nursed my drink in the corner booth, invisible, watching as they laughed over shots. Her hand on his knee, his head tipping back in that genuine guffaw I'd always coveted. By closing time, they stumbled out together, her arm looped through his, and I followed at a distance. Pathetic, I know, like some noir detective tailing his own heartbreak. They paused under a street lamp, her face upturned, and he kissed her. Not the frantic collision of the tent, but deliberate claiming. My chest caved, breath seizing. He'd erased us in one swipe, rewriting the night as a drunken mistake to chase away with straight-laced normalcy. I confronted him the next morning, cornering him in the kitchen as he microwaved leftover pizza. "Saw you with Sarah last night. Moving on quick." Huh. My voice was steel, but inside I was crumbling. He froze, slice halfway to his mouth, then set it down slow. "Ryder, listen." "No, you listen." I cut in, heat rising. "What happened up there wasn't nothing. You felt it too. And now you're pretending it was? For her? For your dad's ghost." His face twisted, guilt, anger, fear in a toxic brew. "It was a mistake, okay? I'm not gay. I'm not. Whatever this is." He gestured wildly between us, voice pitching up. "Sarah's safe. Real. You get that, right? Safe." The word gutted me. I'd been the risk, the experiment in the dark. "Yeah," I said, grabbing my keys. "I get it. Don't worry, your secret's safe. Wouldn't want to ruin your straight guy cred." I fled to Theo's in Queens, crashing on his air mattress with a bottle of Jack and a playlist of sad indie that made everything worse. Theo, ever the empath, brewed tea and listened as I spilled. The camping trip, the storm, the kiss that tasted like hope, and the morning after that soured it. "He's scared, Theo said, squeezing my shoulder. "Doesn't make it hurt less. But people lash out when they're lost. Humanistic bullshit, but it stuck. A seed of understanding amid the rage." Weeks dragged. Alex left notes. "Rent's due. Check the jar." Like we were accountants, not friends. I avoided home, picking up freelance gigs that kept me out till midnight. But the city conspired against escape. One rainy Tuesday, I spotted him at the bodega, buying smokes he'd quit, eyes hollowed out. Our gazes locked over the counter, and for a flicker, the old Alex surfaced, apologetic, yearning. Then he looked away, paying quick and bolting. The climax brewed slow, then erupted at our lease renewal. Landlord banging on the door with forms, forcing us into the living room like a bad family therapy session. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, papers between us like a demilitarized zone. "Look, we gotta talk about this," he started, voice low. "The roommate thing. If it's weird now." He trailed off, rubbing his neck. "Weird. Understatement of the century." "Be honest," I said, arms crossed. "Was it all bullshit? The night, the I can't pretend, just storm-fueled delusion?" He winced, leaning forward, elbows on knees. "No. God, no. It was real. Terrifyingly real. I've been replaying it, hating myself for wanting more. But Sarah, she's easy. No questions, no judgment. With you, it's like staring into a mirror I don't recognize." The room shrank, air thick. "So what now? You date her?" I move out, we ghost like adults. Sarcasm dripped, but tears pricked hot. He stood, pacing, then stopped, eyes fierce. Fuck that. I broke it off with her last week. Said I needed time to figure my shit out. My breath hitched. Why didn't you say? Because I'm a coward, he admitted, voice breaking. Afraid you'd hate me for the flip-flop. Afraid I'd drag you down while I unpack this. Me. He sank beside me, close but not touching. Ryder, I don't know what I am. Bye? Questioning. But I know I miss you. The laughs, the late nights. Us. Tears spilled then, mine first, then his, salty tracks down cheeks we'd both pretend weren't there later. I reached out, tentative, fingers brushing his. We figure it slow, I whispered. No labels. Just honesty. He nodded, pulling me into a hug that cracked open the dam. Sobs muffled in his shirt, his hands fisting my hair like anchors. Fall deepened in Brooklyn, leaves turning the sidewalks to crimson carpets, the air crisp with the promise of change. Alex and I tiptoed into this new normal, fragile as autumn frost. Mornings started with coffee shared at the scarred Formica table. Tentative questions over mugs. Sleep okay? Yeah, you. Building bridges from the rubble. Evenings, we'd cook disasters, burnt stir-fry or overcooked pasta, laughing at the smoke alarm's wail, the sound thawing the ice between us. No rushing back to the physical. That night in the tent loomed like a sacred scar, to be touched lightly, reverently. But doubt lingered, a shadow in my periphery. I catch him staring at his phone, thumb hovering over Sarah's contact, or zoning out during our Mario Kart marathons, controller limp. You good? I'd ask, and he'd flash that grin, half-cocked, disarming. But I saw the strain. He started therapy on the sly, sessions squeezed between bar shifts, coming home with dog-eared books on sexuality from the Strand. Just reading, he'd say, casual, but his eyes pleaded for no judgment. I didn't push. Instead, I sketched him openly now, pencil strokes capturing the furrow in his brow during quiet moments, the way his lips quirked when he thought no one watched. The romance bloomed subtle, American dream style. Stolen touches over dish soap suds, his hand lingering on mine as we dried plates. Walks along the promenade at dusk, skyline glittering like a hard-won trophy, shoulders brushing as we dissected life's cruelties. One night, after a double feature at the Indie Theater, some artsy flick about lost boys in the Midwest, he laced his fingers through mine in the dark alley behind, breath hitching. This feels right, he murmured, and I believed him, pulling him close for a kiss that tasted of popcorn and possibility. Slow, exploratory, no storm to blame. Yet conflict simmered beneath the surface, fed by the world outside our bubble. His buddies from the bar crew ribbed him over beers. Where's that hot piece Sarah at, man? And I'd see the flinch, the forced chuckle that didn't reach his eyes. My own circle, Theo and the design nerds, was welcoming but wary. He sure about this? Theo asked over dim sum, chopsticks paused. Or is it a phase? I defended him fiercely. He's trying, that's more than most. But the seed of fear took root. What if he woke up one morning, decided the straight path was safer? The betrayal I hadn't seen coming wasn't from him, but from within my own insecurities, manifesting as sabotage. It crested at Thanksgiving, when his family summoned him back to Detroit for turkey and tradition. Come with, he begged over the phone, voice tinny. Meet the chaos. I hesitated, Ohio boy meets Midwest machismo? But agreed, nerves jangling like loose change. The flight was tense. He gripped the armrest, whispering jokes to distract us both. His childhood home was a split-level rancher straight out of a Norman Rockwell fever dream. American flag on the porch, grill smoking with Dad's famous ribs. His father, Tom, burly, ex-cop with a handshake like a vice, eyed me appraisingly. Ryder, huh? Alex says you're the artsy type. Mom, Linda, enveloped me in lavender hugs, chattering about pies. Dinner was a minefield. Football on TV, stories of Alex's wild days, with girls that made my stomach twist. He sat beside me, foot nudging mine under the table, a secret Morse code of solidarity. But the bomb dropped after pie, in the garage where Tom nursed a beer, tools gleaming on pegboards. Son, he rumbled, clapping Alex's shoulder. Sarah called. Sounds like she misses you. Good girl, that one. Settled, you know? Alex stiffened, glancing at me where I lingered by the door, pretending to admire a vintage toolbox. "Dad, we're not," Tom barreled on, oblivious. "Don't drag your feet, boy. Clock's ticking. Ryder's a fine friend, but you need roots. Real ones." The words landed like shrapnel. Alex mumbled excuses, face ashen, and we retreated to his old room. Twin beds, posters of Metallica faded yellow. He paced the shag carpet, fists clenched. "It's always like this, the expectation. The man up." I sat on the edge of my bed, heart pounding. "Then tell him. About us. About you." He whirled, eyes flashing. "And what? Blow up the family? For what we have? It's not that simple, Ryder. Not simple." I shot back, standing, voice rising. "You kissed me, held me, said it felt right. Or was that just Thanksgiving theater too?" Hurt twisted his features, but anger won. "You think I'm playing? This is my life. Parents who'd disown me, friends who'd laugh. You waltz in from your progressive bubble, judging. The accusation stung, unfair, but true in its barb. I'd assumed my quiet coming-out scars gave me license. Forgetting his world was built on denial. We slept back to back, the space between us a chasm wider than the Atlantic. Morning brought truces, hugs from Mom, a gruff drive safe from Dad. But the fracture lingered, a hairline crack threatening to spiderweb. Back in Brooklyn, the dam burst. Snow flurried outside our window, blanketing the fire escape in white, as we faced off in the living room. "I can't do half measures," I said, voice steady despite the quake inside. "If you're in, be all in. Or let me go." He sank to the couch, head in hands. "I want to. God, I do. But the fear, it's like quicksand." Tears tracked down his face, mirroring mine. "What if I fuck it up? Lose you? Then we rebuild?" I said, kneeling before him, hands on his knees. Like the tent after the storm. Messy, but stronger. He pulled me up, forehead to forehead, breaths mingling. "I love you, Ree. Not as a roommate. Everything." The words hung, profound, unlocking something deep. We kissed then, fierce and forgiving, bodies remembering the language we'd paused. End of file 3 to 1,000 words. Spring unfurled in the city like a hesitant confession. Cherry blossoms dusting the park's pink. The air humming with renewal. Alex and I leaned into it. Therapy notes shared over rooftop beers. His coming-out letter to his dad drafted and redrafted on my laptop. Raw words of truth that left us both drained and defiant. He sent it Memorial Day weekend, timing it with a barbecue invite home, and we drove the 8 hours to Detroit together, my hand on his thigh the whole way, a talisman against the unknown. Tom's response was a gut punch. A terse email. "We need to talk. Bring the boy." But Linda called the next day, voice wobbly over speakerphone. "We love you, Alex. Always have. Just come home." It wasn't fireworks, but it was progress, human, flawed, the messy grace of family bending without breaking. Our love deepened in the everyday poetry of survival. Lazy Sundays tangled in sheets, his head on my chest as I traced lazy patterns on his back. Hikes in the Palisades, where he'd spin me under pines, kissing me breathless against bark. Quiet nights at the Rusty Nail, his hand in mine under the bar, defying stares with quiet pride. Sex evolved too, from the frantic urgency of that first night to something tender, exploratory, where we learned each other's rhythms, vulnerabilities laid bare like open books. Yet the humanistic core of us wasn't in the highs, but the lows we weathered together. When my freelance dried up, gigs evaporating in a market crash, Alex moonlighted double shifts, slipping cash into the rent jar with notes. For our empire, I sketched through the panic attacks, turning fear into art. A series of urban lovers against stormy skies, exhibited in a tiny Bushwick gallery. He showed up opening night, suit rumpled from work, eyes shining as strangers murmured approval. "That's us?" he whispered, arm around my waist. And for once, I believed in happy endings not as fairy tales, but as choices. The true climax came unbidden, an echo of our origin. A camping trip, this time deliberate, to the same Adirondack lake. Anniversary gift, he called it, 6 months since the storm that started us. We arrived under clear skies, pitching the tent with practiced ease, laughter echoing off the water. That night, fire crackling low, he pulled a small box from his pack. Not a ring, too soon for that American cliché, but a pair of silver bracelets, etched with coordinates of the lake. So we're always tethered, he said, voice thick, fastening one on my wrist, then his. We made love under the stars, slow and unhurried, the tent a cocoon of whispers and sighs. No betrayal, no doubt, just us, two men who'd chosen the wild over the safe path. Afterward, wrapped in his arms, I murmured, "Think the storm's jealous?" He chuckled, kissing my temple. "Let it rage. We've got this." Years later, looking back, that night wasn't the change. It was the spark. What followed was the fire. Arguments over dirty socks and dream jobs, reconciliations in rain-slicked streets, the quiet victories of holding hands at his sister's wedding, her toast winking at the brother-in-law I always wanted. We moved to a loft in Williamsburg, walls lined with my prints and his homebrew kits, adopting a mutt named Thunder who chewed our boots but stole our hearts. Life in America, for all its red, white, and blue bravado, is a tapestry of reinventions. Immigrants chasing horizons, lovers defying scripts. Alex and I wove ours thread by imperfect thread, humanistic in its refusal to erase the scars. He came out fully that summer, bar crew toasting with awkward bro hugs, his dad showing up unannounced one fall with tickets to a Lions game, gruff words over nachos. "Proud of you, kid. Both of you. Not perfect, but real." And me, Ryder Hayes, once a shadow, now stands in the light. Sketchpad open, heart full, loving a man who chose the unknown because it led to me. In the end, it wasn't the something that happened that night that changed us. It was what we did with the after.